I'm going to turn this over to Zoo to You. So excited to have them on board with us today. They're going to be talking about animals that you find in the vineyard and how they impact what's going on out there. They're a great local organization giving a worldwide voice to displaced and abused and injured animals. And let me go ahead and share their screen so we can check them out.
Okay. Hi, Samantha, and this is Cambria. We're from Conservation Ambassadors, or Zoo to You. We are a local nonprofit rescue organization. We do only outreach education. We're not open to the public. We're mostly for local people. You know us as Zoo to You and probably grew up watching us in your school or something like that, usually my dad. But we have like the best job in the world. We get to take care of animals and then bring them out and teach people about them, and who doesn't want to fall in love with an animal. So, and I brought you guys babies today. So you'll get to see some really cute babies, because every year doing this show, it's during baby season, and so I always get to bring you fun babies. So we're going to talk a little bit about some different animals that you're going to find in your vineyard and what their either positive or negative impact might be with you guys, and how to maybe steer them in the right direction to be a positive impact all the time for you guys. So we'll start off with an animal that probably most of you haven't seen. They're pretty elusive. They don't come out much, and this specific species of it, which is actually the native one to California, is not the most common one that you see running around. This is Disco. This is Disco, and Disco is a gray fox. Now you guys are probably used to seeing the red fox. No. You guys are probably used to seeing the red fox, and here I'll get a little bit closer to the camera for you guys. But these guys are actually the ones that are native to here. These are the ones that should be running around out here, and they are actually arboreal. So the more common place for you to see them is probably inside those oak trees, or up inside the oak trees on your property. The red fox is thought to be probably one of the most invasive species in the world, and can live in any climate. So they're really taking over the territory of these guys. But either way, both of these foxes obviously do a great service to you guys here. And the ways to kind of keep them drawn in, and the ways to keep a lot of different prey hunting animals drawn in, is to actually provide water systems for the prey to go to. And then these guys will come in and catch them. And you move that water system around every once in a while, and they'll decimate an entire area full of those prey animals. These guys are amazing gopher hunters. These guys will eat starlings and stuff like that. Because they do live up in the trees, they can climb into all those trees and get up into the nest and eat all the eggs out, and take care of those before they're even a problem, which is super amazing. And besides that, they're just super cute. So Disco here was somebody's illegal pet. He was actually found in Santa Ynez walking across somebody's lawn when he was just a baby. Now, like I said, with foxes, they are super elusive, aloof little creatures. So mom was probably just over hiding somewhere going, please don't see me, please don't see me, please don't see me, please leave, waiting for her baby. And they thought mom had abandoned the baby. Typically, if you just leave a baby animal alone, mom will come back for it. But unfortunately, what they did was picked him up, brought him into their home, and tried to keep him as a pet. Now, that worked for a little bit, because for a little while they're babies, they do act like little puppies until they start growing up, and they scent mark on everything, and they start chewing on everything, and they want to eat your little dogs instead of eating the things that they're supposed to eat, or trying to eat things like kibble. These guys are omnivorous, and they will eat. I know. Oh my gosh. You want to? I know you see a gopher. It's okay. Come on, buddy. We're not catching him right now. So he wasn't getting the proper food, and he had already bonded with people. He has no idea he's a fox. You guys probably all heard of that fox down in Lompoc that ended up having to get euthanized because he ended up on people's porches and killing their chickens because people were feeding him, and he got just a little bit too used to people. Now, Disco here actually is super smart. These animals are insanely intelligent, and he every day, no, you are not going to catch the gopher. You're not. I know, you see it popping up.
Well, we're
Calm
standing
down.
in a vineyard.
Calm down. We are standing in a vineyard. He every day sacrifices his diet, and he takes his little kibbles and he takes little pieces of food and he puts them right at the very edge of his cage, and then he'll make another row right inside his cage, and then another row just a little further in, and then he'll sit behind a corner and wait until a little squirrel comes over and he's like, do 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 do, munch munch munch, do 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 do, munch munch munch, and then he waits until it's all the way in the cage and catches his own dinner every day. So these guys are
Smart.
really good at what they do. Super smart little animals, and obviously they're very cute.
Yes.
So here, I'll go ahead and hand this one to you. Here you go. Okay, so I don't know. Can you guys still hear me? Yeah. I want to make sure I'm not getting too far from the.
It sounds great. Thank
Okay,
you.
cool. I wanted to make sure I wasn't getting too far from the phone. So one of the next animals is something that a lot of you have probably seen. These guys are a nocturnal animal, so you don't see them out during the day too much, but all of you guys have definitely smelled this animal before.
Boop, 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 boop.
Oh, you match our shirts perfectly,
Yep,
don't you?
he's gonna blend right in.
Okay, there you go. Oh, yeah.
There.
We believe food is love at ZBU, so we may have chubby animals. But they're happy. They're happy. So this is Calvin, and Calvin is a striped skunk. Now, you guys all know what these guys do. These guys can eat up to 2 pounds of bugs in a night. So they're going to do you a favor in that regard. They also eat things like mice and moles and voles and gophers and stuff like that. And a family of skunks can completely decimate an area and take care of up to 10 to 12 gophers in one single night. So these guys are really good for your vineyards. You are hiding, I know. Look, wait, just
He's a cuddle skunk.
let them see you for a moment, Chubbers. Go. He says, I don't want to. Yeah, he's snuggly. He has no idea he's a skunk.
No.
It's okay. We tell him every day. You just have no idea. So these guys are really helpful in that regard, but you don't need to fear them. A lot of people are afraid of them because they're afraid of getting sprayed. This skunk is not descented, and we have had him for 12 years now, at least, and we have never been sprayed. We did have a dog one time that came up to the outer fence, and he did end up spraying him, but these guys will give a lot of warning before they spray. What they first do is they turn around and they wave their tail in the air to tell whatever animal it is or person, like, hey, I'm a skunk, back off. And then the next thing they do is they'll turn around and they'll start chattering their teeth to try and scare away the animal. Obviously, usually that doesn't happen, and you guys end up with your dog getting sprayed or something because dog looks at the skunk and goes, kitty. And although man's best friend, not the smartest thing in the world, so they get a little bit closer. Then the skunk doesn't spray yet. They'll give another warning. They'll turn around and they'll start hopping backwards towards the dog to be like, look, dude, not a kitty. And your dog will still go a little bit closer, and they're like, kitty's trying to play? Let's go play. And end up getting a little bit too close. And in one last ditch effort before the skunk sprays, to get your dog to leave them alone, they actually do a handstand in the air while they wiggle their butt back and forth to be like, look, dude, do you not see the big stripe? And then inevitably your dog gets a little bit too close. And now they have two kinds of spray. So they have one spray that, like, if you were to not put a nice tight lid on your garbage can at night and not bring in your cat food and come around a corner and you scream and the skunk goes, ah! And it's kind of like a fogger and it goes everywhere. And then they have another kind of spray where they can, like, hit something on a target from like 10 feet away. They have very good pinpoint accuracy. But usually, and I've come into contact with skunks in the wild, if you just leave them alone or walk them away, you can actually even kind of guide them away with like a broom or something if you want them out of a certain area. But typically, as soon as you come around a corner and if you just walk slowly towards them, they will usually run away anyways, and then you're not going to have as big of an issue.
They're more of a waddle away,
Yeah.
you know. They're very cute.
They're
super cute.
I thought one time I was out camping and I walked out of my cabin to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night, and I was terrified because I didn't have a flashlight, and all of a sudden I see these things like wiggling back and forth in the air, like a bunch of them, and my brain says cobra. And then I'm like, wait, Samantha, there's no cobras in California. That's ridiculous. It was an entire family of skunks that I had gotten a little bit too close to, trying to give me their last ditch warning, and they were doing handstands and wiggling their butt back and forth and waving their tail in the air. But they did not spray me because I walked calmly towards them, and they walked over the other direction once they figured out I wasn't a threat. So these guys can be really beneficial to you if you just make sure that, like, if you do have cats that are on your vineyard and stuff, make sure you bring the cat food in at night. The cat doesn't need to be eating in the middle of the night. Make sure you keep nice tight lids on your garbage cans, because then these guys are going to do what they're supposed to do and eat what they're supposed to eat and do you guys a really big favor. But we'll go ahead and say, oh, you gotta let go. Good night.
For now.
Yes, well, my friend. We're going to meet another animal that I'm sure a ton of you have had very close contact with. I know we have them all over the place, and right now, because it is spring, we've already gotten calls for 6 or 8 babies of these. Now, typically when people bring in the babies that they think are abandoned, they're not. This animal doesn't have a long lifespan, so they get through growing up really quick and they're on their own pretty fast. But this, another cute one, another cuddle one. So this is Pocket, and Pockets is a Virginia opossum. Now, these guys are super, super, super beneficial to your vineyards, and I'm sure a lot of you know why. Now, these guys, just like a raccoon or a skunk or something, will get into your pet food and stuff, but these guys, they actually think that the when these guys started doing really well in nature and really well in the United States, it's what stopped the spread of Lyme disease, because one opossum can eat up to 60 ticks in a night. Now, opossums only live for about 2 years at most in the wild. In captivity, we've seen them live up to 4. I think the oldest recorded ever was 5 years old, but they are a very short-lived animal because they're one of the most prolific animals in the United States. They also have the most teeth of any mammal in the United States. They have over 40 sharp teeth for grabbing. They'll eat gophers and moles and voles and mice and bugs and grubs and all that stuff that you don't want. They'll even eat birds, because these guys, just like that fox, are arboreal, so they'll help you take care of that one too. But excuse me, that's not your best side, madame.
I want to show off my tail.
Okay, well, then we can talk about the tail. So this tail, people ask all the time, can an opossum hang by its tail? The answer to that simply is no. An opossum cannot hang by its tail. There's only one place in the entire world that happens, and that is in cartoons, in Disney movies. Otherwise, this is just what's called a semi-prehensile tail, or a semi-grasping tail. And what it basically does is it helps them for balance and things like that, but it's not there so they don't hang from it while they're like sleeping or something like that. It's just a balance thing. Now it looks like this big ugly rat tail, but it also helps them with another appendage. Now, Pockets here came to us because her mom was killed by a dog. Somebody walking around in their neighborhood, and their dog grabbed hold of a possum and killed the mom, and she found all the babies. Now, opossums give birth to up to 50 babies. You guys just chill out. Oh my God. She's like, I just want to be on your shoulders.
Okay. I just want to snuggle.
So they give birth up to 50 babies at a time. Now, when those babies are born, they're about the size of a grain of rice. And they don't have in the back legs, they don't have eyeballs yet. They just have a nose, a mouth, and front feet. Now, what they do is they crawl up into the pouch, and the opossum pouch is this way. It's kind of like a sweatshirt pocket. So they crawl up into the pouch, and inside the opossum's pouch are anywhere between 11 and 13 nipples. And they go in a circle, usually with one in the middle. Now, 11 or 13 of those babies that make it up into the pouch latch onto the nipple swells in their mouth, and then they develop in the pouch like we would in utero. The rest of the babies all just kind of like dry up and flake off. Now, these babies grow really rapidly in the pouch. And they can start having babies in less than 6 months after they're born. Because their life expectancy is so short, these guys give birth a lot. They are constantly pregnant. They have what's called delayed implantation, so they can mate once, fertilize a ton of eggs, and keep them in stasis and give birth to a few babies off of one mating. And like I said, these guys can eat tons and tons and tons of ticks and bugs and grubs and things like that you want them there doing. Now, Pockets came to us because her mom was killed. We raised her and her 7 siblings up until they were big enough to be released. And every day we would go inside the enclosure. 6 of the babies would turn around and they'd run away and they'd hiss, which is good. You want wild animals to stay wild so that they don't become a problem animal like that gray fox that I was talking about in Lompoc. You want them to be scared of people. You want them to be scared of cars so they don't end up as roadkill. You want them to be scared of power lines. We had to, when we were learning how to reintroduce condors back into California, the first set of condors that we released out failed. They electrocuted themselves on power lines. They ended up on people's front porches. They were landing on top of people's cars, getting hit by cars, doing all this stuff. So what we did is we went back, we rounded them all back up, and we started over. And we actually had people that were, their whole job was to haze the condors. They set up these fake high tension power lines inside their enclosures that would just lightly zap them when they landed on them to teach them not to land on power lines. So it's really important that animals stay afraid because that's how they survive in the wild. Now, 6 of those babies went to the back of the cage, didn't want anything to do with us. Pockets here would come up to the front of the cage and she's like, hello, what are we doing today? Can we snuggle? So she did not get released, but we actually took those 6 other babies and released them right onto our property into our own vineyard. So these guys are a great asset for you guys if they have nothing else to get into. There you. Okay, go ahead.
Come on.
Oh, yep, you gotta let go. Maybe. I know. Our animals aren't left at all, I swear. The next animal that I'm gonna bring out for you guys today, this little one, well, one of them you guys have been seeing on all the advertising for this event coming up, and everything that they've been doing on social media leading up to this. He's the one on the front picture. And then I brought you guys a new little baby one that just got brought in to be rehabbed. So he will actually eventually go into one of our owl boxes. But this is Wizard. And Wizard is a barred owl.
There we go.
Wizard is a barred owl. Now, these guys are not native to California, but owls, as all you guys know, are a huge asset to vineyards. We've seen, and I talked with somebody from Halter Ranch last time we did this event, how I believe they had 8 owl boxes, and in one night, the amount of gophers that those owls ate saved them potentially over $100,000 in damaged vines and grapes and all sorts of stuff just from putting up owl boxes. It really couldn't be much more simple. And truly, if you build it, they will come. And we told our neighbor about this many years ago before owl boxes were popular, when it wasn't really known, when the internet wasn't quite that extensive to be able to show you. And he put up 12 owl boxes on his 40 acres. And we thought, there's no way you're going to fill all those owl boxes like you're dreaming. Well, within 6 months, 8 of those boxes were full. 5 of those boxes were filled by one mother who had laid 5 sets of eggs and was eating upwards of 4 pounds of food a night per box to feed those babies. So truly, if you have the prey source, which we all do, and you build the owl boxes, they will come. And then I think the only thing you need to do is clean them out once a year after nesting season. Now, with it being nesting season, we end up with a lot of babies. I will show you guys a little baby barn owl in a moment. Oh, hello.
He says hello.
Hi, he says I'm not supposed to be awake right now.
No, but I am.
I'll show you guys a little baby in a sec. But Wizard here, what you guys will notice, because he's facing this way towards you guys, is he is missing his left wing over here. Hi, handsome. Wizard was hit by a car. Owls, when they hunt at night, they get so focused. They have those big, huge eyes that are really good for seeing at night. They have that amazing echolocation. Their ears sit at 2 different spots on either side of their head. I'll see if I can't show you guys his ear, because usually, let's go. You can see the back of his eyeball from his ear. Come on, no, wait, just chill.
I don't know if you can
see it
that close. I don't know. Maybe.
But that's the inside of his ear. on the back of his eyeball. Like, what are you doing? And you're so tolerant. You're such a good boy.
Yeah.
So they have those big, huge eyes that makes them able to see really well at night. But if there is no light, there is no sight. That's for any animal in the world. They don't have like Superman infrared X-ray vision. Turn towards the camera, bubbies. It's fit in that way.
Oh.
Okay. You want me to stand? There we go. Okay. So if there is no light, there is no sight. So then they rely on that echolocation to be able to find things. Now their echolocation is so very specialized and so good that they can actually hear the eyelashes fluttering on a mouse just from over 100 feet away, just with that super specialized hearing. They can recognize the heartbeat of a mouse from over 100 feet away. Just because of that specialized hearing. And they can create a literal virtual map where they can see the eyelashes fluttering, they can see the curve of the eyeball, they can see the nose and the whiskers and everything just through sound with their eyes completely closed. So it's a lot more specialized than almost any other animal with echolocation in the world. The other ones are kind of more like sonar. They send the waves out and you get back a general picture. They actually send it through their optic nerve to the eyeball, and then the eyeball sends it back to the brain as vision instead of just their brain calculating it out like a lot of other animals do. Now you guys want to see the baby?
Yes,
I'll bring
please.
him over. Let's say goodbye to Wizard.
Hi, Wiz.
Come here, you. Come here, you. So this is going to be the ugliest and cutest little thing you have ever seen in your life. This is a baby barn owl. This was just brought to us. It was living up in somebody's palm tree. I guess she has barn owls that come there every year. And some of her palm fronds fell, and unfortunately 3 of the babies landed on top of her hot tub and didn't make it, but this one did. So we are rehabbing this one to go back out. And he fell on top of the palm fronds, and he's doing just fine. But even an owl this size, this little baby that we have estimated to be about 16 days old at this point, is eating 3 40-gram mice a day at this size. So these guys already, they already are eating it. They're eating a ton. That's like a 1/4 pound for them a night. So even at this big, they're doing a ton. And there were 4 babies in that nest, so you can imagine the mom trying to feed 4 babies. And just with that, you're going to get a lot of abatement done. Hi, little cheapers. Okay, I know, it is the ugliest, cutest thing you've ever seen. Now, baby birds of prey are full grown within the first 8 weeks of their life. They grow up really fast. A lot of things in nature do. I think we've talked about it a little bit more with the opossum earlier, but they grow up really fast. So these guys start flying within their first 6 weeks, and then they're totally grown up, full feathers. They go from the egg, which is this big, to full grown, which will be this big, in literally 8 weeks. It's a crazy transformation. It makes me cry every year because I want babies to look like babies for a long time because they're so dang cute. But he just, in the 4 days that we've had him, he just got all of this fluffy feather. He's a little uglier before this too, I know. Can't imagine that, but he was.
Fox chicken.
Yeah. And these guys don't have a crop, but you guys probably all know and have some experience with owls. They have what's called an owl pellet. So almost every bird of prey actually spits up a pellet like that, but with owls, they don't have a crop, so they don't digest it as much. So when that pellet comes out, you can actually gauge how many gophers they're eating a night. You can gauge how many mice they're eating a night, what kinds of species they're eating a night. So it's actually a really helpful tool to be able to calculate whether maybe you need more owl boxes on the property, or maybe you don't need as many and you don't need as much maintenance, or maybe the whatever. So it can give you an actual accurate reading of how much those owls are doing for you in that vineyard. And I know that the guy at Halter Ranch last year said that they could then take that and put a monetary value on it, which I think was an amazing thing for sustainable practice. Now we're going to go ahead and put this one away. I'm going to get one out for you guys. This is the last animal we're going to talk about today. And I'll bring it up there. Oh,
okay.
They can still hear me. This one is just a little itty bitty baby. This one will eventually, within this year's harvest season, so when harvest season comes around this year, this little bird will actually be flying on a vineyard, I believe at Letitia Vineyards probably, to do abatement for starlings during harvest season. But right now he's just 5 days old. I know, come here. And this is a little bit cuter of a baby. This is a baby lanner falcon. Now, I know some of your guys' vineyards use falconers to do abatement during harvest season and stuff like that, and some of you may not. But what we do, I'm a licensed falconer, so I'll be out with him. And what we do is we fly the birds around to keep the starlings off of the grapes. Now these birds, because they fly so high and so fast, they keep them and they push them further and further away. With that said, though, we usually have to, depending on the size of the vineyard, have up to 7 birds working in one day. It's no small feat to do vineyard abatement, and especially on some of these really, really big ones, you're constantly having to drive around. And you basically, as soon as you see those starlings, because you guys all know starlings can decimate an area in no time flat. As soon as you see those starlings, you go ripping over in your car. You throw the bird out of the car. The bird scares away the starlings and then comes back to you. We bring them back down. Hi, I know. Are you hungry? We bring them back down. We call them back down with what's called a lure. It is usually a little tennis ball on a string. So we have been raising this one next to his tennis ball that he will be using for his lure. It's something that they get really attached to. It's something that they know it's playtime, and to them it's not work, it's play. They love getting to chase those birds. Falcons eat other birds. That's their job. Now, the reason we chose to get a lanner falcon this year, the falconry company that I work for, the reason we chose to get a lanner falcon this year is because of the extreme weathers on the Central Coast. We usually get a lot of that really hot climate. Now, lanner falcons are really weather tolerant and really good at being in that hot climate. So that's why we chose him for this year. Are you hungry?
No.
I know
Yes, please.
You are so darn cute. So he's already almost doubled in size in just 2 days. Since we've had him, and he will continue to grow and look like a big boy in no time flat. And last year I brought over my peregrine falcon, Eileen, and she was about double this size, I think, when I brought her over to meet you guys during this event last year. But these are really amazing little birds, and I don't know if anybody had any questions or anything that they wanted to ask me before I go. I'm happy to answer anything that you guys may have questions, comments, or whatnot about.
Yeah, if anyone has questions, you can throw them into the little chat box. But if not, it's so fun to see the animals. I know it's always one of the highlights of our events when we do it on site. So I'm so glad that we were able to do it this way still.
I know. I don't
Absolutely.
get to see you guys and let you hold something cute this
Exactly.
year. But when this is all over, we'll have to do it again.
Definitely.
Definitely.
We'll
Yeah,
have
we'll
more
absolutely
babies.
do it again.
We always have babies.
Yeah. Let's see. I have a question here from Brandy. How effective are red-tailed hawks against starlings?
They're not as much. Starlings are not as scared of red-tailed hawks, or any hawk for that matter, because hawks don't eat other birds. Hawks are more going to help you with the abatement of things like gophers and squirrels and stuff like that, the ground-dwelling animals, the rabbits that love to decimate the bottom of the mines and stuff. But falcons are going to be the ones that are going to scare the starlings because they eat other birds. So they will actually go out and catch one. And usually when one of our birds, or if one of our birds catches a starling or something, the other ones stay away for a good hour or two. And so it makes it a little bit easier for us.
Amazing. Well, thank you guys again for coming on. It was so fun to have you and so fun to see them all. It was great to see the little babies too. It's always great.
Agree with
Yeah. It's lunchtime, huh?
I know. With that big belly. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you
All
guys
right,
so
well,
much.
thank
I hope you guys have a
you.
good rest of your event.
Bye.